Last year, we covered Iliad and Icor, Bitewing's two-part initial crowdfunded entry into their Mythos line, beautifully produced abstract head-to-head duelers, and now we're right on the cusp of the next two entries, Azure and Moytura, which both represent a sort of departure in the series, a growth, an expansion, not board game expansion, but an expansion of ideas. And I don't just mean in their thematic foundation, but also in their approach to two-player conflict, which, of note, Moytura is designed by Trevor Benjamin and David Thompson of Undaunted fame, and Azure is Trevor Benjamin and Brett J. Gilbert, so I don't know what sort of dark sorcery Bitewing is concocting to attract such incredible talent, but it's clear that for such a young company, they are really swinging for the fences, which in itself you just love to see. Anyway, let's get on to the games. Rooted in Irish mythology, Moytura pits each player as a leader of the Tuatha De Danann, wrestling dominance and divine favor by staking claim on land and fighting forces of darkness. Each of 10 rounds consists of both players taking a turn, using the ability of a rotating display of progressively more costly gods to put out units in adjacent areas, following the god's particular brand of expansion, with more units and even permanent upgrades to that god's favor if you pay for their boons while in a higher position. After both players have taken a turn, the NPC Fomorians expand based on a card flip. Then, after the 5th and 10th round, all of the territories are checked for first and second place presence of units, points are awarded, and either a player wins, or in the case of failure to combat the forces of darkness, both players lose. When I first put my hands on it, I expected Moytura to be the more conventional of these two games, but the more I sank my teeth in, the more that it subverted my expectations, generally for the better. First off, breaking from precedent of pretty much every other combative map game ever, you and your opponent can never enter the same space, period. You do not fight the other player. Obstruct? Sure. Claim land that they desperately want? Of course. But fight? Never. That's something for between the players and the enemy. And speaking of which, they work on simple attrition. You enter enemy territory, then you remove one unit each until one or both players are gone, and same for them expanding towards you. This makes for a more stoic game than I expected, but the result is actually really cool, especially in conjunction with the simple but very dynamic action system that bears more than a whiff of familiarity to the iconic mythic battle game Cyclades, which, if you ask me, is a very good thing. The challenge really comes from your limitations. There's loads of territory and a constant exchange between players and the enemy, but you have to work around the limited set of actions, which are different flavors of put pieces on the board. And you can't even put pieces into spaces you already occupy, so there's no sense of fortification, just anticipation, obstruction. Moytura feels like a much bigger game while remaining really lean and light on its feet, but it's a game that you gotta meet on its own simple, deliberate terms. And while Bitewing has already informed me that there's going to be some changes to the map UI, particularly better and more distinct visual separation between areas, we definitely struggled with the visuals on regions and the roadways that drive the NPCs. Also, because you're not directly combating the other player and you're both striving to fight against an ever-expanding enemy, I couldn't help but feel that there's a cool co-op mode buried in here somewhere, but maybe that's a muddled experiment for another time. On first glance, Azure is the type of game you've seen a million times. Someone plays a lot of chess or Go and says, hey, I can make that except with a modern twist. And it's almost never good. And what blew me away was how much I liked it. Players take turns placing one of their pieces on the board, spending one card of the matching color quadrant per boon in the space, which are either drawing more cards of specific colors or chi. Ki? Kai? let's just say points, which with only a couple of cards, it's like, dog, how am I ever going to get those fat 6-pointers? Well, what makes the game so cool is you reduce the cost to place a stone by each other stone of yours in the same row or column, only blocked by the mountains and their auspicious beasts. What are auspicious beasts, you ask? Well, each has a way for players to positionally claim, then wrestle control of, and reward you with their favor of points, extra cards, or even setting a stone atop their mountain, reaping all of the placement cost reduction that bestows. Azure has this fantastic sense of acceleration. Because no stone is ever removed, it feels like players are spiraling towards an inevitability. Every placement that you make is an investment, and every card that you pick up by placing a stone is of consequence. Play is extremely snappy, with the game concluding when a player hits 25 points or any player is unable to place a stone on their turn. Like I said, I was more leery on this one, having a lot of bad prior experience with these sort of detached abstracts. But this is the first one since maybe Santorini, another mythic dueler, that really had me on the edge of my seat and wanting to play more and more. Ultimately, I'd still say that Moytura is more my jam. It's just got more presence, more story, more meat, more oomph to it. But I find it fascinating that it was less game, not worse game, but less game than I expected, and that Azure was a lot more interesting than I thought at first glance. Both are fitting next steps in this line, and as one might expect at this point, Bitewing has all kinds of levers you can pull in both games via promos and mini expansions to change up the fundamentals, but it's important that here, those fundamentals are rock solid. So if you like two-player duels, lavishly produced and encouraging some unconventional designs by some of the best in the biz, neither of these games miss. And that's our review, but let me know, what is your favorite abstract two-player game, and what is your favorite game inspired by mythic folklore? Put it in the comments. And as always, thanks for doing all of the social stuff. That really helps, the subscribes, likes, etc. But beyond that, thanks for watching, and thanks for being an awesome community. You know that I've been Jack for the Cardboard Herald.